you, Dan. I'm not sure I'm deserving of that, but I do thank you for that nice introduction. It's been a busy, exciting, and challenging 18 months since I became president of B'nai B'rith. I've traveled near and far representing this organization in so many interesting venues. I continue to marvel at how our name opened doors. B'nai B'rith has many amazing moments. Since our last policy conference in Montevideo, unique is our first ever policy conference in Latin America. This year's conference is unique in its own right. We have combined the annual policy conference with the housing conference. It's also unique in another way. I'll be showing off some of our new multimedia efforts as I talk to you tonight. Hopefully it'll work for both of us. I'll be talking with you tonight about where B'nai B'rith has been, and we'll look ahead to where we hope it's going and how we plan to get there. At this policy conference, we will kick off a year-long celebration of our 170th anniversary. During our long history, B'nai B'rith has constantly evolved and adapted to meet the changing needs of the times. We were a Jewish immigrant aid society initially. Later, we built orphanages and hospitals. We undertook a wide variety of domestic and international service projects. We were a youth service organization, and on and on. In each generation, we evaluated the needs and adapted, meeting the challenges of the day. We've changed dramatically, but at our core, we have always been an organization of Jewish people working together to make the world a better place to live in. B'nai B'rith is building and changing, but our mission remains the same. We are dedicated to the security of Israel, to human rights, to combating anti-Semitism, to safe and affordable housing for seniors, and to senior advocacy, and to disaster relief. Yet, as you will hear tomorrow, we still do magnificent work in many communities as well. Since our last policy conference was in Latin America, let me start there to highlight some of our accomplishments this past year. We have been working tirelessly with the Organization of American States, the OAS, to pass an Inter-American Convention Against Discrimination and Xenophobia, Racism, which should include an explicit reference to anti-Semitism as a form of racism. But the slow process to pass it inspired us to be even more aggressive. At the OAS General Assembly this year, our leaders and staff raised the issue of urgency to the Secretary General, who noted its importance. B'nai B'rith has also been instrumental in passing anti-discrimination legislation in several countries, including a measure passed in Chile after the very hands-on work of B'nai B'rith and the leadership of the Jewish community at large. We can take great pride in the fact that our B'nai B'rith communities and crisis programs delivered $5 million of pharmaceuticals and supplies this year, bringing our total donations over 10 years of the program to more than $100 million worth of medicines and supplies delivered to the tens of thousands of people in need in Latin America. Our efforts to raise awareness about Iran's very troubling infiltration in Latin America is ongoing. Dan and I, and often accompanied by our staff and leaders from that region, have frequently met with government officials in Latin America and warned them about the danger of strengthening ties with the Iranian regime, which has a history of using its embassies to plot terrorist attacks. Given the region's porous borders and lax security controls, Latin America is a fertile ground for plotting terrorist activity against Jewish, Israeli, or American interests. We serve as the proverbial canary in the coal mine, alerting the world to a pressing danger. We take seriously our commitment to protecting Israel's security and image on the world stage. Having learned of it in advance, B'nai B'rith was among the first to critique a simplistic, flawed, CBS 60-minute report on Palestinian Christians. Protecting Israel from the United Nations sometimes requires exceptional vigilance. Unfortunately, the world bodies, various agencies, continue to demonstrate a bias against Israel. When UNESCO was found to have provided funding for a Palestinian children's magazine that praised Hitler, B'nai B'rith brought this outrage to the attention of American diplomats and UNESCO officials, resulting in the pulling of the magazine's funding, as well as the condemnation of the offensive publication. I am pleased to say that B'nai B'rith was the first organization to expose the endorsement by the UN Special Rapporteur on the Palestinians, Richard Falk, of a supposed Palestinian right to choose violence to justify their goals. And we stood out at the Human Rights Council with an official intervention, breaking down Falk's latest anti-Israel report, which referred to a senior terrorist mastermind as a mere baker by profession. We continue to do magnificent work in Israel, where our efforts through the World Center in Jerusalem is outstanding. In April, the World Center held a Holocaust commemoration ceremony to note the heroism of Jews who rescued fellow Jews during the Holocaust. This ceremony is the only one in the world dedicated to acknowledging the heroism of Jews who rescued fellow Jews in Europe. More than 800 people participated in this ceremony. Please take a look at this. We are coming up on the 125th anniversary of a B'nai B'rith presence in Israel. We can take pride that our role working on behalf of the Jewish state remains strong. Of course, our voice on the world stage is not limited to Israel. Soon after I took office, I had the great honor to lead with Dan Mariashin a B'nai B'rith delegation to the Vatican. We met privately with Pope Benedict XVI, the latest encounter between B'nai B'rith and the leaders of the Roman Catholic Church, intended to advance positive Jewish-Catholic relations. We also took part in a conference of President's mission to meet with King Abdullah of Jordan at his palace, where we were one of only 5 groups given the honor of addressing the king. My travels have also taken me to Europe, where I had the pleasure of speaking at the B'nai B'rith Europe's Young Jewish Adult Forum last year. Leaders from 28 countries were eager to learn about B'nai B'rith, an organization they knew by stellar reputation. Here in Washington, we were invited by the Department of Homeland Security to serve on a key committee that counseled Secretary Janet Napolitano and Homeland Security Advisor, Council Chairman Judge William Webster. Homeland Security recommendations made by the committee with B'nai B'rith input focused on how federal officials can better support efforts to keep faith-based communities safe and secure. Also in Washington, B'nai B'rith played a pivotal role in the introduction this year of congressional legislation that will advance the rights of nearly 1 million Jewish refugees from Arab and Muslim countries by requiring the U.S. administration to report to Congress on actions it has taken to prioritize these rights of these refugees. B'nai B'rith has done much to bring attention to this under-recognized problem. We testified both at Capitol Hill and before the European Parliament, sharing our expert recommendations about core issues facing the Jewish community, such as global anti-Semitism and Israel's security needs. We have also advised European parliamentarians on issues related to world Jewry or Israel, offering input on public speeches, legal documents, or political actions. Our expertise is sought in so many venues and on so many issues. That's a great advantage of B'nai B'rith's big camp. If you are not yet a senior citizen, and as I look around the audience, I see quite a few of you who have not yet there, let me tell you the bad news. You will be. But don't worry. B'nai B'rith continues to be a leader on seniors issues. That's not just me bragging. The noted journalist in the Jewish press said that B'nai B'rith played the leading role among Jewish organizations in working for the passage of the Affordable Care Act, and now that the Supreme Court has affirmed much of that act, we continue to work on its successful and effective implementation. This year, we also fought to preserve expansions of Medicare preventive benefits and battled reduction in prescription drug costs that could have really hurt seniors. Mindful that so many seniors rely on Social Security as their only source of income, we work to defend the American Social Security system from cuts for current and future beneficiaries. As a recognized leader in the area of affordable housing for seniors, we spoke out against the all-too-low appropriations for low-income housing, and our voice helped avert an even worse cut for housing in a program that has already received a catastrophic number of people on a waiting list for safe, affordable housing. Our commitment to senior housing for low-income people from all backgrounds continues. We are pleased this year to open the Glen East 2 in Dotton, Alabama, our newest facilities. We continue to be sought after experts on housing issues. We provided testimony this year on the new housing and urban development reform proposals. With global demographic shifts, meaning people are living longer and often healthier, our deep roots in senior issues have us well positioned as an expert voice speaking out for the aging population. Well, B'nai B'rith is also, of course, is well known for our disaster relief efforts. As we prepare before disaster strikes, at the 99th anniversary of the API convention in Phoenix just last month, we created more than 300 disaster kits featuring child activity material and artwork to create child-friendly spaces in disaster situations and to decorate and building up projects in community centers. We also focused on senior preparedness kits and training to bring the disaster prep to communities around the world. As you know, B'nai B'rith work begins when other groups have left the scene of a disaster. We just completed our final allocation of disaster funds in Haiti, where we provided scholarships for young people to go to school as part of the Dream Team program in partnership with Israel. These young people, in turn, go back to help their own communities. Another way we help at the most local level this year, Passover food distribution for Project Hope brought more than 3,000 packages to poor and elderly Jews, enabling them to celebrate Passover. The food deliveries were paid for and made by B'nai B'rith volunteers in 6 states. And there are countless other exciting local projects that bring together B'nai B'rith members to meet the needs of the communities. We will be honoring the leading force from one of these programs tomorrow. It's truly remarkable what dedicated volunteers can accomplish. As always, on Yom HaShoah, B'nai B'rith sponsors Unto Every Person There Is a Name in communities and campuses around the United States. We should be proud that we continue to ensure that the world never forgets the horror of the Holocaust. We are the official U.S. sponsor of the international program sponsored by Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Israel.
Napoleon was quoted saying, if these people are still commemorating what happened 2,000 years ago, they as a people will be around forever.
With innumerable appeals reaching donors for support and increased scrutiny by corporations before tying their brand and logo to a cause, it is heartening that B'nai B'rith continues to enjoy the trust and support of premier corporations. The B'nai B'rith mission to advocate for tolerance and human rights, quality health care and security procedures has resonance for business leaders who are proud to offer support. To mention just a few of the incredible honorees in the last year or so: Pepco Holdings, Frontier Communication Corporation, the international law firm of Miller Canfield, BDO Seidman, North Shore of Long Island Jewish Hospital, Montage Hotels and Resorts, and the Baylor Healthcare System. I should also note that our annual dinner in Boston to help support senior housing continues to be a marvelous success. And I'm pleased to announce that the former Banking and Finance Dinner will be relaunched. We will honor Metropolitan National Bank and our own Harold Shulman, a member of the accounting firm, partner in the accounting firm of Citron Cooperman and Company, with our Distinguished Achievement Award. And we cultivate these relationships. Just a few weeks ago, Dan and I traveled with some past honorees on a corporate leaders mission to Israel. Bob McDonald, the CEO of Procter & Gamble, Gary Cohn of VD Medical, and Tom Senti of University Hospitals in Cleveland learned about B'nai B'rith's efforts in Israel. We met with business, military, and government leaders. Our corporate guests saw how B'nai B'rith name opens doors at the highest levels, including at the President's office for a meeting with Shimon Peres. We continue to have an excellent relationship with the New York Stock Exchange Foundation, which for the 6th year sponsored our wonderful Diverse Minds Youth Writing Challenge. The creative book submissions from teenagers teaching lessons in diversity and tolerance are so impressive. These books have become treasured reading by elementary schools students nationwide. This year, NBC Universal Cable Networks co-sponsored the contest. Quite a distinguished roster of companies eager to attach themselves to our values, values that have stood the test of time. B'nai B'rith's expansive archives, after a detailed documentation effort, now reside at their new home at the American Jewish Archives in Cincinnati. Our archive partners said at the time of the transfer, the collection of most important Jewish membership organization in American Jewish history will be accessible to scholars, researchers, and students the world over. As you can see in this video, American Jewish Archives is impressed with our collection.
The B'nai B'rith Archives is, without question, one of the most important archival gatherings, holdings that exist in terms of tracing American Jewish life.
Our keynote speaker on Monday, noted historian Jonathan Sarna, has called the archives a major force in Jewish history. I know you look forward, as I do, to receiving your B'nai B'rith magazine. The oldest continued published Jewish periodical in the world continues to receive accolades for exemplary work. B'nai B'rith magazine received 3 awards in June from the prestigious American Jewish Press Association's annual Simon Rockover Awards for Excellence in Jewish Journalism. We continue to receive impressive global media attention. Dan and our subject matter experts are called upon by reporters to explain and expand our views. I had the opportunity to share B'nai B'rith's outlook in an interview with the Jerusalem Post, which resulted in a favorable article. In the last 18 months, our opinions have been published on the op-ed pages of the EU Observer, the Jerusalem Post, the Miami Herald, New York Jewish Week, FoxNews.com, Global Post, the JTA, the Houston Chronicle, the European Jewish Press, and the Times of Israel. You know, I still remember starting out in this organization nearly 50 years ago. I was so excited to roll up my sleeves and get started, making a positive difference in the world. And I see that enthusiasm today in our young professional network, which continues to grow and flourish, with active groups in my hometown of Chicago, as well as in Washington, D.C., New York City, and Denver. It has been a busy year for these folks. The first network-wide program took place in February, which each community hosted a mitzvah hour with their local Gift of Life chapter. 30 new people became potential bone marrow donors throughout our events. Our Conversation Around the World series, which brings young professionals to embassies for small group discussions with diplomats, has continued to flourish. This program began in the spring of 2011 and has carved out a niche for young professional network here in Washington, D.C. The leadership of tomorrow starts today. You will see this firsthand at lunch tomorrow. But our Label A Cats Award has proven a solid indicator of how some of our most promising young leaders will rise in this organization. 4 of our living past presidents, Tommy Baer, Richard Heidemann, Boy Smith, and Dennis Glick, and both the chairman of the executive, Gary Saltzman, and our Chief Justice, Billy Perez, are Label A Cats Award winners, as is Chuck Hoffman, one of our senior vice presidents-elect. The Label Cats Award has gone to many other past, present, and future leaders. Our Young Leadership Program has become a vital portal to B'nai B'rith's international leadership positions. We have a strong partnership with the Pi Jewish Fraternity, another avenue for increasing young leadership efforts in the Jewish world and increasing the ranks of young Jews involved in B'nai B'rith. I was pleased to be initiated last year as an honorary brother. I must recognize the immense help of Andy Borns in ensuring that this partnership A5 is successful. Each generation in B'nai B'rith, nearly 169 years, has cultivated the next. By adapting to change since 1843 and thriving on meeting the challenges of a constant evolution of issues, we have enhanced our role in the world. As so many of us in the room can attest, the rewards of staying involved in Jewish issues and activities are countless. My involvement has informed and enriched all aspects of my life. And I see what these young folks are doing. I am encouraged for the future of Jewish communal life in general and for B'nai B'rith specifically. Finally, tonight, I want to take some time to discuss how we encourage participation, involvement, caring, and compassion in this very LinkedIn world where so much is accomplished without face-to-face contact. This is where our new digital media strategy comes into play. As much as some of us in the room may successfully live without it, a digital footprint is imperative to getting noticed in today's world. And that footprint has to be integrated into a bigger picture. Social media, things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and platforms that haven't even been invented yet, has to be part of the future of B'nai B'rith. I'm pleased to say the future is well underway. We have a steady, if slower adapter of social media. Frankly, the funds just weren't there to do much more than establish a solid presence on these platforms. However, I have to give credit to Steve Zorn and his marketing committee for helping to convince the executive committee that it was essential that we move to the next level in this important means of communicating by creating a digital media strategy position to guide us. And in just 10 weeks, the horse and buggy carrying our social media message has sprouted wings. A website is often the first face the world sees. As of a few days ago, we have a new and much improved website, developed with input from all departments in our marketing subcommittee. Its more modern and inviting look and feel should encourage visitors to stay longer and find out more about our good work. We encourage you to visit often to see what B'nai B'rith is doing. We have vastly expanded our presence on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Instead of one-way communication, just telling people things, we now participate in dialogues with like-minded parties. We now have 4 times as many followers on Facebook as we did in June, and we have doubled our output on Twitter since then. We've been adding video to our YouTube channel at a rapid clip. I encourage you to like us, follow us, and view us. And if you don't know what I mean, please visit our social media lab in the next few days to learn. Social media is not a vacuum. These are merely tools to convey our message. Our next steps will be creating and implementing an integrated plan, making social media work for us as we expand the neighborhood's name recognition. Now is an exciting time to be part of the neighborhood. We continue to honor our founding principles while we take the necessary steps to ensure our continued longevity. We're kicking off our 170th anniversary year this weekend. The organization today looks a lot different than it did even as recent as when we celebrated our 150th anniversary. We've adapted to changing times. Standing still is not an option, but our core principles would still be recognized. Even if our founders were to somehow come back to visit, they would know us, respecting our past, but embracing the future. That's today's B'nai B'rith. Together, we can continue to recognize the challenges of today and move forward to meet them. Thank you very much.